Welcome guys back to the channel. The owner of this Mazda CX5 came for carbon cleaning and an exhaust camshaft inspection, which also includes injector washer replacement and valve gasket replacement. During the initial assessment, we found something else as well wrong with the car. So now let me switch the camera and jump in the cabin and show you what I found on the scan tool, what the values are and what is wrong with this car based on our initial assessment. But before that, if you want to buy a scan tool, which I recommend is the X-Tool brand, link in the description, use the code Mr. Nice Guy 94, you will get discount whatever buy you from the website. So when I was chatting with the owner, he mentioned that the oil pressure light came on, and here is where the problem starts or the big bills start to come. He mentioned the oil pressure light came on always after around 37 miles of driving. So now let's finally switch the camera and show you what I can see on the diagnostic tool. So let's read the fault code. What you can see, guys, is P253F fault code. The description of it is deteriorated engine oil. So in this case, the customer, the owner, is very lucky. He can consider himself being very lucky, and let me tell you and show you why. I can already tell that I've done the initial scan and checked the oil pressure, and the oil pressure seems to be fine. However, I must add that we can only confirm that the oil pressure is okay if we remove the valve cover and we see that the injector washers are not blowing out, meaning there is no solid carbon buildup around the injector holes, which then could be washed down further to the sump and box the strainer. So what I'm saying is, even though the live data is showing good oil pressure, 100% check or confirmation can be when the oil sump is removed, but we are going to remove the valve cover first, and from that we can already tell if the valve cover sump is needed or not based on what we can see inside the cylinder head. But now let me switch the camera back again and show you the live data. So the engine is running. Let's just have a quick look at the oil pressure. So the oil pressure is averaging 170 kPa on idle at 66 degrees of engine oil temperature. I can tell you guys, I already revved it or already raised the temperature above 80 degrees of engine oil temperature, and the pressure was the same on idle, 160. So from the live data, I can say that the oil pressure seems to be good. What doesn't seem to be good is the exhaust pressure sensor values. That's quite low, not quite, a little bit low than it should be. It should be 105. Now let me rev the engine real quick to 3000 rpm, and the numbers should raise quickly as well, and then return back to at this moment 96-97 kPa quickly as well. So let me do that. They did. So basically what I can tell from that roughly, that the pipe underneath the exhaust pressure sensor is not blocked. It should be fairly clean, but the sensor is on its way out. You can see the differential pressure of the exhaust gas, it's quite high. It should be not more than 0.3 on idle. I'm not worried about that at the minute, because the car came for carbon cleaning and all sorts of other repairs. So I would be worried about that after the repairs, and I'll tell you that once the things which going to do will be done and explain few stuff. As you can see, the learning values of the fuel injectors at different pressure points has numbers or values to them, meaning they are not reset and not relearned or not done recently. And let's have a look at the corrections. Again, corrections seems to be fine, but I'm not bothered by them at the moment. I only worry about these numbers after I reset and relearn the injectors, and also after all the repairs we carry out. Those numbers should be fine, but at the moment I'm not really bothered by them. And let's have a look further down, and here it is, or here it will be why it has the low oil pressure warning. So guys, have a look at the distance since last change of oil value. There is the crazy number, 118,000 kilometers, and which if you convert, the car has 90,000 miles, and if you convert 100 and let's say 120,000 kilometers, it's around 70,000 ish miles. So basically the car hasn't had that oil data reset for like 70,000 miles ago, which is crazy, and that's why is the oil pressure the oil pressure fault code on. Also look at the dilution, that will be checked. So basically we are going to remove the dipstick and see the level of the oil, because it's a crazy number as well, nearly 1 kilo. So that's huge, that's crazy high. Accumulation of particulate matter high. It will trigger a DPF region very soon, and it's done a region just like 19 kilometers ago. And also the owner mentioned that the DPF light here comes on quite frequently, or it comes on. And also have a look at the average consumption, 28 miles per gallon, which is terrible. So I would be worried about the DPF light only after the repairs, because once we do the carbon cleaning, we reset the DPF data, the injectors, we relearn the injectors, I take it for a test drive, I make sure it does one regen, and after that I recheck the values, which I'm going to show you in this video as well. And if the numbers don't improve, then I would address them further. Now let me get out of the car and show you the engine bay, what I can see, and then how we are going to process with the repairs. So here is the engine bay. The exhaust pressure sensor is the old one, so I'm going to let the owner know that we recommend it replacing. Guys, we never carry out any repairs without the confirmation of the owner, of the customer. And also I can see the drive belt is cracked, going to recommend that to the owner as well. So those two things, extra things which we noticed, except what he came for. So it came for the carbon cleaning, so intake manifold cleaning, EGR parts cleaning, and then walnut blasting the intake ports, and also replacement of the injector washers, which so basically we call it exhaust camshaft inspection, because we remove the valve cover and then inspect the exhaust camshaft. And if it is not worn, we're going to replace the injector washers and the valve cover gasket and put it back, everything to the original condition. If the camshaft is worn, we're going to replace that if the owner agrees. I can tell roughly that the valve cover hasn't been removed. Again, that bubble very likely indicates, because that's the factory silicone sealant, that it indicates the valve cover hasn't been removed. But sometimes you've seen that whoever worked on the car was lazy to clean that silicone off, and he just put it back with the old silicone on the top of the cylinder head. So yeah, but very likely in this case this one hasn't been removed at all. Also the owner mentioned that the fourth injector has been replaced, which I can see because it is over tightened. So basically the left and the right nut is at the same level, if that makes sense. So the thread is sticking out the same distance or same length, and if you compare the other ones, they are not equal. So I mean the left and the right, so that is a little bit less sticking out than the right one, and on this one is equal, so that has been replaced. We need to check if that has been coded to the ECU as well. And let's have a look if the intake manifold has been removed. Very likely hasn't, because the clamp on the coolant hose is facing towards the cabin. So now I'm going to give this car to Dan, and he is going to remove further parts, and after he is finished with it, I'm going to report back to you guys how the intake manifold and the intake ports look like, and also what we've discovered underneath the valve cover. And also guys, before I forget, why it is very important to replace that cracked drive belt if it is cracked or worn out, because not only that you will not get the battery charge, because the alternator is driven by that drive belt, which I'm going to do a separate video, because we had a very funny case on Dan's car. But the more important thing why you need or want to replace that if it is cracked and you don't want it to snap, because the water pump, which is below the alternator, is driven by that drive belt, and if that snaps and you are on your way, you will still be able to drive the car. However, the water pump will not be working, and basically very likely you blow your head gasket, and that will cost you a lot more in money than just replacing the drive belt. Now let's check the oil level of the car. So it should be between these two dots and the X. If it is an X, that's quite a lot, like too much. Now, so let's check how much oil is in the engine. So it is way too much, and we are quite not surprised because the car was doing the regens or triggering the regens very frequently, so it is quite expected. But yeah, the oil has to be drained and changed as well. Dan is finished with the removal of the valve cover, and he also removed the oil shower so we can see better. Have a look at the condition of the internals underneath the valve cover, so the cylinder head. It looks very clean. It's bronzish, goldish color, which is good, which we want. And luckily the camshaft is not worn, so we don't need to replace that. And also the customer saved like quite a lot of money for himself. So basically now I can contact him, because this is what we were agreed on, to remove the valve cover, check the camshaft, and from that we give him a call and let him know what we found. So the camshaft is not the replacement of the camshaft is not needed. We're going to just replace the valve cover gasket, this rubber thing, and the injector washers. They weren't blowing out, as you can see. How you know, or what looks like when they would be blowing out? Basically a carbon buildup would be around the injector hose, which would be further washed down by the oil to the oil sump and picked up by the strainer, causing a low oil pressure. So at this stage we can safely say that the removal of the oil sump is not needed, not necessary. So we can put back the injector washers, the new injector washers, and the valve cover. However, we recommend the owner to get the sensor replaced and the pipe cleaned underneath, and also the drive belt to replace. And as you could see from a previous clip, the oil level is quite high and diluted, so we will also recommend him getting the engine oil replaced. It's finally finished with removal of the intake manifold and the EGR parts. Let's have a look at the carbon buildup. Again, as on that one, it's not the worst one we've seen so far, but it is there and it will be taken care of. And also I had a phone call with the customer, with owner, and he confirmed that he wants the sensor to get replaced and also the pipe cleaned, the drive belt and the oil change. So now Dan is checking the pipe for blockage. So in this case the pipe wasn't blocked, but anyways we're going to get it heated up just a little bit and blow air through it just to make sure it is perfectly clean. And we're going to replace the sensor, because in this case the sensor was acting up and that was giving like false readings to the ECU. And in the meanwhile, Ben is ready for the engine removal. He's preparing the sizzle table for himself. He's not digging around as we are with the removal of the EGR and intake parts. He's nearly removed the engine from that car already on his own. Let's have a look at the carbon cleaning results on the red Mazda CX5. Let's check the valves. So Dan done a great job again. Now the remaining part is to fit back the intake manifold and the EGR parts, which are still needs to be cleaned. It's not going to take too long, and after that I'm going to test drive it and check again the live data values and all the values, reset few adaptations, and then get back to you guys with the results and show you if the car is ready to be returned back to the owner. Okay guys, I am back from the test drive in that Mazda CX5, the red one. And now let me switch the camera and show you the live data, what I can see, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do and what should happen. So I did reset the injector pilot learning. As you can see, the values are 0. And let's have a look at other values. The oil pressure is very good, as you can see, that's fine. I'm not bothered by that. What I'm interested in, have a look at the differential pressure sensor. And the car has done one region during the test drive, because I did reset the DPF data as well. Now let's have a look at the injector correction factors. Yeah, and now the DPF values, which are interesting for us at the minute. So even though the car has done one region, the numbers are quite high again. The accumulation of the particulate matter, it will trigger another DPF region soon. And let's have a look, when was the last one, like how long ago? That was 11 kilometers ago. So now I'm going to do the injector pilot learning, which will assign values to these numbers, to these data. So that will change from 0 to something. I'm going to do that with the help of a wire and basically just jumping a pin in the fuse box to the negative. So now let me get that done and I'll show you the values after, if the injector pilot learning is done. The pilot learning was successful, and let's have a look if it made any difference. It didn't really make any difference in the DPF sensor values. As you can see, now the data points have values assigned to them. Let's have a look at the correction factors. They definitely improved, as you can see. They are closer to 0. And now let's have a look at the DPF data. It didn't change. So what I still believe, that this car would benefit from a chemical DPF cleaning. And I'm also going to check the injectors, the coding of the injectors, because the owner mentioned to me that one of the injectors were replaced and maybe they didn't code the injectors back to the car. So here I am in the injector correction factors menu, and as you can see, this is different scan tool, this is then scan tool, and I've checked all the injectors, and the numbers which are printed on the injectors are matching with the numbers which are coded to the ECU. So now I'm going to ask the owner whether he wants to get a chemical DPF cleaning done on the car or not, but that is the cheapest and the only thing that could help in order to make sure that the DPF regions are not that frequent and get rid of any soot that may have accumulated in the DPF filter. Yeah, so if he agreed, I'll show you the data after as well, and if he didn't, then that means that this is the end of this video. So the owner gave me green light to go ahead with the DPF cleaning, which I'm going to use this DPF gun for it. I already have the fluid prepared, so I'm now going to switch the camera and tell you and show you what I'm going to do, then carry it out, and after I'll show you the results as well. So I have disconnected the DPF sensor, which is down here at the moment, and pulled out the pipe which goes before the DPF. I'm going to put that fluid in here. First I'm going to fill it up like for 5 minutes and let it sit down there like with a few bursts, let it do the job, and then I'm going to turn on the engine and pressurize the rest of it whilst the engine is running. So I have done the DPF cleaning, as you could see from the exhaust tip that the exhaust foam was coming out. And now let's have a look at the live data. Have a look at the differential pressure of exhaust gas, which is way too high because the fluid or the foam is still in there, so that's making the pressure high. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to keep the revs around 3000 rpm and those numbers, the 15, 16, should go or climb down, and it should go back, I would say, to 3.5 kPa on around 2.5, between 2.5 and 3,000 RPM. So let me do that. Let me keep the rev or the revs around 3,000, and let's have a look how the data or the graph will behave. I'll need to hold it till the numbers will start to go down. And now I am having an extremely huge smoke behind me. It is like when they elect the new Pope in Vatican. Also got a message, soot accumulation in DPF too high. It is triggered because the pressure is very, very high. The differential pressure, this one. But as you can see, I'm holding the revs at 3,000 and the numbers are going down. So I'm going to keep the revs at 3,000 till the revs, till the number, the pressure is the number I want it to be. Now we are starting to enter the single digit numbers. Also, the warning message seems to disappear as well. Okay, so the numbers don't really want to go below, I would say, 8. So now I'm going to do a DPF reset, and then I'm going to take it for a test drive to trigger a DPF regen and then see the numbers. But let's have a look at the values at idle. I'd say it's averaging around 0.7. Not too terrible, not too bad, but we would like to average around 0.3 if possible. So I am back from again the test drive, and now let's have a look at the numbers if they improved. So the differential pressure of exhaust gas is averaging, I'd say, around 0.6, maybe 0.5. Slight improvement, to be honest. And let's have a look at 2,500 RPM. That's 3.6, which is very, very good, to be honest. Like, that's where it's supposed to be. Let's have a look at the other numbers, which I'm interested. Yeah, correction factors of the injectors are very, very good. Closer to 0 the better. But I'm interested in the accumulation of the particulate matter in the DPF sensor. So that number is 2.051. And it has done 11 kilometers since the last DPF regen. So basically that number was around 3 point something the last time it done the DPF regen, and only 6 kilometers passed since it. I still would consider it on a higher side. However, what may happen, as the car will do the regens, it will get rid of that, and the DPF will get cleaner, and hopefully the distance between the two regions will improve. So yeah, you don't need to delete the DPF, guys. We never delete the DPF, and we don't recommend it at all. If you have DPF related problems, you need to fix why the DPF is regenerating that often, rather than deleting it or remapping it from the ECU. So this was it, guys, for the red Mazda CX5. Obviously I will be in touch with the owner and want to hear a feedback from him if the DPF light will come on or come back on or not, if the regens will improve. For that, very likely he will need some kind of diagnostic tool or scan tool, which also you can buy through my link, which is in the description. And if you use the code or discount code Mr. Nice Guy 94, you'll get, I believe, 10 or 15% discount throughout the whole website, so feel free to use it. Let me know, guys, in the comment section if this video was educational for you or entertaining at least. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys very much for watching, and see you soon in the very next video, which will be uploaded, I don't know when, but there is a lot of content. If you have a look, the garage is full with these Mazdas with different problems, so we can't stop fixing them. Thank you guys very much for watching. See you soon in the very next video. Until then, take care and bye bye.